Ben Habib believes the Financial Conduct Authority, FCA, also has serious questions to answer when it comes to what he termed the mistreatment of the former UKIP leader. NatWest's entire board must be held to account for the bank's attempt to cancel Nigel Farage by closing his account at Coutts, an ex-MEP and close ally of the former Brexit Party boss. Speaking after the resignation of NatWest CEO Dame Alison Rose, Ben Habib has also pointed the finger at the Financial Services Committee, accusing it of permitting what he called a wholly unacceptable judgmental culture to develop. Dame Alison announced her decision after admitting to being the source of an inaccurate story about Mr. Farage's finances. Mr. Farage, now a presenter on GB News, last week presented evidence, in the form of a 40-page dossier, that his account at the NatWest Group-owned London-based private bank had been closed partly due to his political views conflicting with the bank's values. The evidence, obtained from the bank through a data request, directly contradicted a BBC News story, which initially claimed the account closure was driven by purely commercial reasons, citing Mr. Farage's failure to meet a £1 million borrowing requirement. Mr. Habib, chief executive of commercial property investment and fund management company First Property Group, told Express, "If NatWest thinks Alison Rose's resignation puts a line under their mistreatment of Nigel Farage, it is mistaken. Her resignation raises more questions than it answers. The bank had opted to adversely judge Nigel's virtue, and backed its CEO in breaching data protection laws," Mr. Habib claimed. He added, "The entire board of NatWest is culpable." Mr. Habib continued, "The Financial Conduct Authority, the regulator for NatWest, also has questions to answer. It is bound to be in close contact with the bank. Yet, it allowed a wholly unacceptable judgmental culture to develop, and it was apparently blind to breaches of data protection laws. But here is the real problem, and the FCA is very likely part of it. As regulator, it would have required the bank to combat social injustice through the bank's obligation to abide by environmental, social and governance (ESG) regulations. As such, NatWest would have wrapped itself in a cloak of false virtue," Mr. Habib suggested, entering its efforts on diversity and inclusion. He said, "It promoted the drive to net zero and people from different ethnic minorities, religious backgrounds and sexual preferences, even if doing so was to the detriment of their organizations and the exclusion of the ethnic majority. It did not matter that this may have been economically damaging. Commercial interests have now apparently become secondary to self-assessed declarations of virtue." In such a context, NatWest's executives had concluded they did not like Mr. Farage's views, Mr. Habib argued.